Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes. And I'd love to welcome here Rob Wolf, who is an author, and we're going to talk about his book and get to know him. Rob, tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, thanks for having me on your program. Much appreciated. Welcome to, and thank you from Florida. I know you're in Texas, and I see your nickname or your middle name is it Coyote or Coyote?
Coyote.
So we're relatives because I'm a wolf, so there we go. I was born and raised in Michigan. My parents were Hungarian. I'm first generation American. I was born in Detroit and raised in suburban Detroit up through 12th grade. I was one of three Jews and the Jewish people in my high school. We were about 40% black, so similar makeup to the Detroit area, our high school. I didn't feel any anti-Semitism at the time or racism. It was more about the blacks and the whites back then, the 60s and 70s, but the riots and all that, not so much the Jewish people. But needless to say, I was lucky. I had a good upbringing. My dad was a doctor. He was an OBGYN and delivered 10,000 babies in the Detroit area. So that's the punchline with all of this. After you read the book and you hear about all those harrowing events and tales that he had to share, all the miracles and getting out of there with a smile and no sign of PTSD, and educating about history and the Holocaust, as my mom did as well. So I digress a little, but I love sports. I love music. I'm a foodie. I'm into fitness, golf, history, travel, education. It's probably just nutrition, just scratching the surface. But I try to have a lot of interests like my parents used to as well. That said, I went to Tufts for undergrad. Now I'm an indentured servant. Tufts for 4 years, Michigan Medical School for 4. I did a year internship. And I just retired from 35 years of radiology. So I was very fortunate. I trained besides University of Michigan, which was a great medical school, very, very hard, but very prestigious, lucky to get in. And my training was at Brown and Yale for radiology and neuroradiology. So now I'm 30 and my indentured servantry is finally done and I started making a living. And what happened to my mom and dad during this time, about 30 years ago, I read my dad's book and hopefully I'm not missing anything. I've lived half my life in Michigan, by the way, and half my life in New England, and now I've been in Florida for 5 years, 6 years. So I sort of know the eastern part of the country more than the west. But Texas, I'd love to do a book presentation in Texas, and I'm in talks with some Houston Holocaust Museum. I haven't reached out to Ackerman in Dallas. There's a Fort Worth one too, and it's on my bucket list, but it's a long bucket list. So. Anyway, my dad passed away in 1997, unfortunately, and my mom passed away in 2016. I retired for a year after taking care of my mom's affairs. And when my mom passed away, I'm going to flash back again. When they did my dad's autobiography in the 70s, first it was paper and pencil, to a typewriter, to a computer, to a disc. So now flash forward to 2016, a historian friend from my hometown, friend of the family, hands me the disc with my dad's story and says to me, you've got to read this. You've got to look at this. So I didn't think much of it at the time. I decided to retire for a year, but a friend of mine in Michigan needed help reading x-rays and ultrasounds from home. They were short. So I went back to work in 2018, very short retirement until now. And that brought me to the book. It brought me to the disc. I probably read the manuscript about 30 years ago, maybe more, and didn't think much of it, except I remembered my dad's first escape, first of 4 escapes, a missed escape, 20 miracles in the book, including the escapes, maybe more than 20. I can't really count, but there's a lot of them. So it's unbelievable. So I went to work. So as a radiologist, we've got 2 screens. We've got the left and the right. The left's got the patient list, and the right screen has the images. So between cases, the left screen was my dad's autobiography, and the right screen was me turning it into a biography, pretty much with the same words, with English corrections and historians' reviews and my own homework, changing very little. And so this is now about 2019, we'll call it. This is the year I moved down to Florida. Tried to pitch agents and publishers, and it was kind of a dull biography. It was just point A to B to C. Dad was born here. Dad did this. Dad did that. So a couple of beta readers, I had the book beta read by a few professionals, and they said, one of them said, a Jewish lady in Rhode Island, and she's helped me a lot with this book, but she hooked me up with Janice Harper. And Janice is not Jewish, but she's in Washington State, and she's a professional book coach and ghostwriter and author herself, PhD in anthropology of all things, and an expert at Madagascar of all places. But she loved the project, so she took it on, and took her a year and change, and she did her history and her homework and learned about the culture and the food and all that, and really turned the book into a. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Janice. So she turned the book into a real novel. Letters to and from home, conversations, parallel stories, converging stories, in and out of order, just really well done. And I'm very grateful for that. And not only Janice, but also the team. Like the guy that helped me, Mark Cahill, helped me since the beginning and set up my website and has been retuning it. And the gentleman who did my book cover, if I may, was
Sure.
Croatian. And everybody loves the book cover, and hopefully this is showing up. But we'll talk about the awards in a second. But great team. And so we queried agents and publishers very carefully. Janice helped me with that, and she's helping me with my speech, of course, when I do book presentations. And finally, shoestring catch, bottom of the ninth, we've got Amsterdam Publishers. They picked us up, and here we go. And so very fortunate to have professionally published book. It's on the shelves at Barnes and Noble, et cetera, et cetera. And the Holocaust and related stories is all that Amsterdam Publishers does. But not a lot of people know about the history of Hungary, and I really didn't either until I got into this project. And what happened during World War II, and never mind the communists. After World War II, as my dad said, out of the frying pan into the fire. There's Nazi Hungary and the communist Hungary. So they had to deal with all of that. And 4 escapes, like I said. Here's a teaser. My dad missed an escape. He went to the wrong train station under communist Hungary and thought he was the unluckiest guy in the world. Turns out that everybody who made the correct train at the correct train station got arrested, including his medical school roommate. So, as the Sopranos would say, the luck on this guy, the luck of the Jewish, the luck of the Irish. I prefer to call it the hand of God, the luck of the grace of God for my dad. If you don't believe in something after you read the book, then there's something wrong, because I was going to talk, instead of Not a Real Enemy, I was going to call the book the Sixth Book of Moses, because of all the miracles, and that was my dad's Hebrew name, Moses, or Moshe ben Yosef. There's no sugarcoating in this book. I know we've deviated from who I am to the book, and I hope that's okay.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay, so yeah, the book's won 4 awards, and that means a lot to me. I'm not the type of guy to pat myself on the back, but it makes me happy that important people in the know care about the material, and they think it's important, and think that the book is good quality, and that means a lot. That means a lot to me too. And but it doesn't mean anything if the book and our message is not helping to curtail anti-Semitism, or to get to people, to recruit people to think to think peacefully. And I'm not saying go out and fight with the activists, go out and fight with the the protesters, but do something different. Give back to the community. Go volunteer somewhere. If you're having a problem with civics, call your local congressman or senator or local mayor, that kind of thing. It's a lot less destructive, but you don't have to do all that. But if people invite me to book talks or podcasts like yours, it goes a long way. I mean, the more message we get across, then the more people realize how damaging racism and anti-Semitism can be. And these stories we're talking about 70, 80, 100 years ago, and it seems like we haven't learned. I'd also like to say that 10% of my proceeds are going to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. That's in perpetuity. That's for my parents. It's something that pleased my mom and dad. I've been there twice for two-day book signings last year, which was phenomenal, the pinnacle of what we do. I could do it every day, meeting kids and families and having them buy the books and talking about genocide and the Holocaust. And the nicest thing that people said to me, one said, "Sorry for your loss," and met my grandparents, and probably she hadn't even read the book yet, but my dad's parents, while he was away at his forced labor camp, 21 or 22 years old, were taken away in 1944 and died at Auschwitz. My dad's father was a dentist too, so a real threat to society. And he used to do freebies for the less fortunate in their hometown, and his mom would bake and make food and share it with whoever was less fortunate as well, share conversation, that kind of thing. So, and then my mom's grandfather was a rabbi, and he also perished at Auschwitz. So, real threats to society. It's just it's disgusting. And the other lesson, not to ramble, but what happened then is happening now in some places. I mean, it's not exactly what happened back then. Less people are buying into this hate thing, but enough people are that it's an eye opener. But it's so sad. As a radiologist, I value the anatomy of the human, or other animals too, dogs, giraffes, you name it. but not just the anatomy, the cell, the biology, the way we're made up. It's fascinating. It's so complex. It's really overwhelming. And people like Hamas and the people that my parents had to deal with, the Nazis and the communists, they don't care about human life. They'll one bullet and it's over, a couple of seconds and you're done. And I think that's just disgusting. It's the opposite of, as a doctor, we're trying to preserve life, and these people, and just because they're Jewish or whatever, I mean, but there's not a lot of Jews left on this planet, maybe about 16, 17 million. And I don't want to call us an endangered species, but I hate to see what's going on now. And like I said, my parents wrote this story as though they knew I would do this. And if you knew me 6 years ago, you'd say this guy would never write a book. I'm not that. I'm an anatomist, and I like science and math and all that. But now I'm an English major and a marketer and a historian, all rolled into one. So my little corner is Hungary, and my dad was a badass, so to say. With escapes. All different. One in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. His second one in Budapest, in front of Nazi headquarters, or just right there. I mean, they called it the dog pound. They got double crossed by a trucker and ended up stuck in this place where they would have even been removed and placed into another forced labor camp, many of which had death marches, which people don't know about. We talk about the death marches, obviously, in Okinawa and the Pacific during World War II, but not forced labors. And so second escape, split second timing, a lot of luck. A pack of cigarettes helped them survive that, if you can believe that. It was a tool for them to be able to escape with the distraction. His third escape, he was in medical school under communist Hungary, and he decided enough was enough. He had to watch what he said. He had to watch who he was friends with. Be careful about criticizing the communists, so the Russians and the Hungarians. And so he left, and it's a cloak and dagger story what happened in that escape. He changed his mind and turned around and went back to school and was on call the next day, and nobody even knew he was gone. But included in that escape was an argument with an armed Russian soldier at the Hungarian-Austria border, and my dad, BS'd his way through it, and the guy, he didn't call his bluff, and it's unbelievable the kind of courage he had. And then finally, my dad's forced escape with my mom was after the Hungarian Revolution in 1956. They were both frontliners. By then, he was an OBGYN. Had to double down as a trauma surgeon, so he was up all day and night for 2 weeks and change. Not a lot of people know about that war. 3,000 people died, thousands injured on both sides, refugees, on and on and on. And that's a big flux of escapees. My parents a little bit late because they were in the middle of treating the people medically during the war. As you know, Russia killed Hungary. I mean, it was over in, like I said, in 2 weeks. And mom was a frontliner too. She was a medical student at the time. They left when she had 13 months to go to finish, but she never finished when they came to the United States. She had to work while my dad had to redo his residency in Boston and then end up in Detroit. So, but in the Hungarian Revolution, she ran the blood bank. So both really frontliners there. And if you've ever seen pictures of Budapest during and after that war, they're ugly. I mean, it's as bad as World War II almost. I mean, and there's a lot more pictures. It's more recent history, obviously. It's another, what are we talking, 12 or 13 years later. So, and I feel bad for the Hungarian people. I mean, I don't know what they've got now. There's a lot of people don't seem to like Orban, and they say maybe he's Putin's pet or Putin's puppet. I don't know. But either way, give the Hungarians a break already. Let them be democratic and let them be independent and vote for people that are going to take care of the population and not just look after themselves and less dictatorial. So, and we're seeing that in Ukraine, of course. That's a war I call the Hungarian Revolution on steroids because it's just going on, and it's just senseless destruction. It doesn't make sense to me. So.
Well, I was reading your biography, and there was mention in there about a movie.
Truthfully, we're actually a screenwriter who's a professor at Rutgers and elsewhere in the New York, New Jersey area is helping us query producers, producers that he thinks might want to take the book to another step, whether it's a documentary or a series or a movie. Hopefully, there's this new movie coming out with Adrian Brody, The Brutalist, I think it's called, and it's a Hungarian immigrant who comes to New York, I think it is, and it's a 3.5 hour movie, I'm told. But Adrian Brody was excellent in the Pianist, which is also about the Holocaust. So I'm looking forward to seeing that movie, and if it's successful, maybe that'll help. Maybe be a good catalyst for somebody to show interest in purchasing the screenplay or the rights to the movie. We'll see. But it's unfortunately, I've got the fires in LA going now, and it's bad timing. And I could put a quarter in the parking meter and it'll come up 3 lemons. It's the old joke, So it's just timing and luck, and we got to be patient because we're talking about people's lives, of course, and being displaced from their homes. So we're walking on gentle turf, but we are trying to get an interested producer. A lot of people that read the book say it should be a movie, and I agree too. I guess that's one of the. It's so picturesque. You put yourself in my dad's place in these escapes and the fear that he has. You feel it. I mean, and that's what a movie's supposed to do, right? You empathize. You more than empathize with the hero, with the main character. You actually become them in a way. James Bond movies or Tom Cruise, that kind of thing. Tom Cruise was my first pick to be my dad because all the running scenes, but a lot of people disagreed with that because whatever his viewpoint is, I'm like, I don't care about all that. Tom Hanks would play one of the nicer guards in the forced labor camp, and nicer is with quotation marks because none of them were really that nice, but some of them were less brutal with the forced laborers than others. So what saved my dad's life was he was a male and he was young, so he was helpful. They did a lot of useless work at forced labor camps, but they also they dug holes for trenches, for landmines. They had to take landmines out. They built airport runways. And then they just had some silly things just to keep them busy, moving rusty trolley, rail cars, and they had to walk for an hour just to go get their tools, and an hour back. And then in some cases they had to walk out of their way to get dinner. And they were so tired by the end of the day. They were working from dawn to dusk. Sometimes they're just too tired to eat, and they starved too. They starved plenty. So I don't know how they did it. And for my dad to be jolly and jovial and no sign of PTSD and delivering babies, all those babies, was his redemption. And I don't know how I would have been able to handle it. And most people too, because there's tough people in this country, like police and the military and even doctors in a way, because we have our own discipline. We've got our own track, and you've got to stay on it or you're not going to make it, right? But I don't know if I could have, how I would, these people are tougher, I guess, in their thinking, and other EMTs is another one. The people that drive the ambulances and save people. It's hard. It toughens you up, but for the average person, I don't know how they would do it. I mean, it's crazy. The kind of persecution and anti-Semitism that they had to deal with. It's overwhelming. So that's a lesson in the book too. Determination, integrity, hope, freedom. And the fact that we shouldn't complain about what we have in this country, because no matter what, we have it pretty good compared to these regimes that my parents had to endure. We get to vote. There were no cell phones back then. There were the cops were pointing their guns at you instead of trying to protect you. No cell phones, no witnesses, no lawyers, no courtroom until way after the war, of course. And the only the witnesses were the next victim, either in a forced labor camp death march or the well-known shooting on the Danube River, a desperate shooting of innocent people as the war was ending. The war was practically over, and they shot people at random at will. It didn't end well for people like it does in Schindler's List. It's not that pretty. So, and we don't sugarcoat in this book. We tell it like it is. Like a friend of mine says, if Dad said that that's what happened, then that's what happened, because he was a man of integrity, and so were his parents too. So we talk about that a little bit when I do a book presentation.
Is there any plans to do any further books like this?
I got 3 in my head. This one is keeping me really busy with trying to market it mostly now, and I do have part 2 for my dad's stories. It's interesting, but it's not as harrowing, and it'd be a lot shorter story. It would bring us from their final escape, and when they end up in Vienna in 1956, it would go from there to their harrowing trip to the United States, their time in New York City, Providence, Boston, and Detroit. A lot of good stories, but that would be my second book. And third one would be sort of an autobiography / humor / lessons for pre-med or medical students or anybody that's interested, like the House of God. But it would be serious. We talk about it. It'd be the title would be The Things That They Don't Teach You in Med School. That's and I should probably copyright that title, because I've mentioned it on a few podcasts and somebody will steal it from me. And I mean, everybody's book is different. Everybody's got a story. It's another lesson, if everybody's got their own story. So that would be sort of my autobiography and giving back to talk about the what's great about medicine, what's crappy about medicine, insurances, investing, legal. The partnership tracks, all kinds of things. And then, of course, a little bit about gross anatomy and going through med school and pre-med. It could be a really good book, but And then the fourth one would be how to invest in the bear market. And my level of expertise in that is not from getting my MBA or working for Fidelity. It's just by reading up on it and watching CNBC and learning as I go about the economy and investing. So, and I still know more than probably 95% of this country about investing. So that would be a good. And the last three books would probably be a lot shorter than this first one. And by far, this book would be the most important book that I have written. So I'm not sure if I'm ready to tackle all that yet. I'm still trying to go strong with this one. This is about my 77th podcast. I know you've probably done many more. I don't know how many, but we're getting up there. My 36th book presentation's coming up in Long Island. It's the HMTC of Nassau County. So it's essentially the Holocaust Memorial in Long Island. And I've got my first university talk coming up in University of South Carolina in May, which is really exciting. So, and hopefully get a lot more of them, because one of the things I say all the time is I really want this book to be taught in the classroom. 7th, 8th, 9th grade. It might be a little much for a semester, but it could be summer reading. Yeshivas and history classes and Holocaust and Jewish studies. There's space for it. And the book, I mean, whether the book is read in class or not, it'd be great to do book presentations and have the parents come and buy copies of the book and educate their kids, because education starts at home. It's not just up to the school teachers. If you don't have good family and you're not raised correctly, then it's trouble. It's disabling.
Yeah. You haven't come across any kind of protests or anything at any of your book things, have you?
Actually, mostly on social media, not lately, but you get good days and bad days. A good day is, oh, I read the book, I loved it, I dropped a review for you, blah, blah, blah. And those are good days. Or this book really moved me. The bad days was, a Hispanic guy wrote, I don't know if it was Facebook, now called Meta, or LinkedIn or X, formerly Twitter, said, what do I care about some Jewish guy or something like that? And I've had some Islamic people, a few people chime in and start fighting with me. But what happened to my parents has nothing to do with Gaza, today's Gaza and everything. And same with the people that were kidnapped, and same with Americans that have been killed or tortured or persecuted here in the United States. And not just here, Australia, Europe, of course. And Israel's tough that they're getting through it, and I'm glad the war's over. But it's just a different form of racism and anti-Semitism. When I first started this project, somebody said to me, it was my friend in Rhode Island. She said, make sure when you pitch the book that you talk specifically about anti-Semitism, not racism, because they're not going to take you seriously. She said something like that. And I'm like, it blends into me. To me, it's all the same. It's just, it's one man, one woman not liking another because of their creed, their color, their race, religion, that kind of thing. And I'm here to also encourage, like my parents, meet other people. I have more Christian friends than Jewish, but plenty of both. African-American friends, Asian, Muslim. And I love hearing about their background, where they come from, what they do. It's fascinating to me. My parents were the same way. They had friends all over the world, and they like to engage people and learn about their backgrounds. And that we need more of that. That's a part of acceptance and tolerance, is just learning about your neighbor, your fellow man, and not picking up a gun. Pick up a pen, make a phone call. You just go to meetings, town hall meetings or whatever, which I just did. They had a Holocaust program, which was excellent, 2 survivors. And I got to talk to a few people about my book, and hopefully I'll get a local presentation from that. So, but I've done a lot of them here in Southern Florida anyway, so been busy.
What is your website?
It's robertjwolfmd.com. That digs a little bit more into, there's some videos that are, it includes World War II a little bit, the Hungarian Revolution, the little known Hungarian Revolution, a lot of content, a lot of videos. I've done 20 TV interviews, so many of them are on the website and my YouTube channel, which is Robert J. Wolf MD, and good content, reviews and everything. We've slowed down on adding, but it's loaded. And then also you can get to the book through that. You can find the book also on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. It's on the shelves at many Barnes and Noble stores, but if it's not in your neighborhood, then you can just order it, I suppose. Tufts University, my alma mater, it's in the library and the bookstore there, which is really cool. Got a nice review from Saul Gittleman, Professor Emeritus. Everybody from Tufts knows who he is, and he wrote a great review for me. Walmart, and then the 4 Holocaust museums, the DC, the Long Island, where I'm going, the Zeckelman in Michigan, which helped sponsor a talk last summer at a local synagogue, and then Illinois, and the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Tolerance Center. And that was a great book presentation. That was really top shelf. We did a a fireside chat, and then I did my talk, and then a question and answer, which lasted 45 minutes, which might be a record, and then the book signing. It was we closed the place. It was fantastic. My hometown book talk was great. Well, we packed the place in, and it was at the library, and really, really cool stuff. That's heartwarming, and it just puts a lump in your throat. There's nothing more special than that. So, but robertjwolfmd.com is the website. You can find me on social media all over the place. What is it? Meta, LinkedIn, X, Instagram. I've recently joined TikTok. Don't ask me why. Maybe I'm just getting saturated with but it seems to work. I can do reels with music. So I kind of like that part because for many years I've been doing today's word and today's song. And I stopped doing that last year because apathy, my own apathy, but I never ran out of material and tried not to do repeats. But now I can incorporate music into some of these reels, and I've got a lot of great songs. And I just told you I did Texas Flood for our thing today. So
I'm going to put your links in the description to make it easier for folks to find you.
that's
Rob,
a great idea. Thank you so much for doing that.
oh, my pleasure. Rob, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with me today.
Thanks, Kyle. I really appreciate the chat and the time, and God bless you, and God bless this country, and Jewish, Christian, Judeo-Christian morality. We need a lot of it, and incorporate the Muslims too. Islamophobia is out too, so don't blame a bunch of people for what a handful have done, and that goes back to the book. But thank you so much. I appreciate the support and the interest.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. For my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. And until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network